Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this USCHA webinar about how to write and how to submit an abstract today. I am Allison McKeithen. I'm the Assistant Director of Conferences at NMAC, and I am joined here with my director, Tara Barnes-Darby. She's off screen, but she'll be available to answer any questions. If you put questions in the chat box, which is to the right of your screen, you can drop them in there. Any questions we can't address in the chat box, we will respond to at the end of this webinar. And to let you know, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted later on today or tomorrow morning, so you'll have it as a reference to go back to. So don't worry if you miss something, we'll post everything there and you can go right back to it. All right. All right. So I'm going to go off screen so you can see everything well. And again, welcome. We are going to cover two things. Part one is going to be about how to write an abstract, basically going over the components of an abstract and the best practices. And the second part will be how to submit it, because we have updated our submission system and we want to make sure that you know all the ins and outs so you can properly submit your abstract. We are going to be conducting a webinar in Spanish tomorrow at 11 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, and it'll be presented by Bruni Velasquez and Jalen Otero. So if you're interested in getting this information in Spanish, if you are Spanish speaking and want to get that information in Spanish, you will be able to hear this again tomorrow. So jumping into everything, our website address is uschA.life. Here you'll find all of the USCHA information, and specifically we have an abstract tab where the majority of the information we're covering today lives, and where you'll be able to find this webinar later. This address is important because it also links into the abstract submission site. So you want to make sure you have this address and you're able to log in and see all the information about the abstracts. The second most important thing is our submission deadline. The deadline to submit your abstracts is April 15th. So write that on your calendars, make sure you're aware of it because it comes up fast. These days are going by pretty quickly, and yes, it is also tax day. So this is an important and memorable deadline. So we want to go into how to write an abstract, and I'll be able to answer a lot of questions that might not be covered in this towards the end of the webinar. So be sure to put your questions in chat and we will address them at the end. The first thing you want to do is look at our track descriptions. They're all listed on our website, on the USCHA.life website. We have all the descriptions for the 10 tracks that you're able to submit under. The list is here. You see we cover a variety of topics from racism to ending the epidemic, mental health, policy, prioritizing people living with HIV, treatment and research, best practices. So make sure you read through those track descriptions well. And when you're writing your abstract, find the track that best matches the content that you'll be submitting. This is very important when it comes to the review process because the track committees look at your information and compare it to the description of the track to see whether or not the content matches what the track's intentions are. If you have questions about the track descriptions, if there's something that's not quite clear, you are welcome to ask those questions or address it to us in a later time, and we'll help you go through that and determine where your abstract may best fit within so that you get the most points possible on your abstract review, okay? So just keep that in mind. We're available to answer those questions. So we offer two types of presentations at the USCHA. We have workshop presentations and we also have poster presentations. Our workshops are 2-hour presentations, mostly didactic lectures or panels on a specific subject matter. Our poster presentations are just like what they sound like. They're poster boards, 4-foot by 8-foot placards, where you're able to display the content of your abstract. We look for things that are easily and visually communicated with text statements that are brief so that people are able to get that information, understand the context, and move along and ask questions if necessary. Next, we also have abstract formats. This is what drives the content that you provide. It helps us determine what type of information you're providing us when we're doing the review process. So you can submit under the scientific type of abstract or the community. And we'll dive in a little deeper next. So if you're writing on a topic that is scientific or research-based, we ask for the following content: that you have a title that's limited to 10 words, a workshop description limited to 150 words. Here you want to give the description of your study. You want to give the content and a description that goes into the overall picture. And think of this kind of how you would advertise your abstract and your content. What do you want people to know primarily about your content? The second part is the methods. You want to describe the methods or strategies used in the program. What methodology was your research based on? What was your scientific methods? Third part, results. Describe the objectives and outcomes of your study. This is where we would look for quantifiable data. Fourth, conclusions. Based on your study or your scientific research, what are the conclusions that you reached as a result of that information, as a result of that study? A lot of scientific formats also lend well into our poster presentation types. You don't have to apply for a poster, but a lot of times, because the content is very clear and quantifiable, people are usually able to understand that content in the poster format. So just something to think about while you're writing and, considering what format would be best for you. Next, we have the community-focused abstract format. This is where you're discussing or addressing a broad issue, problem, or a community need. The content we look for is as following. We ask you for a title, limited to 10 words. Part 1 is your workshop description. Again, identify the topic of the proposed presentation. What do you want people to know or understand? What is the overall picture or understanding of your abstract? Second part, the issues. What specific issues, problems, or needs will you teach or discuss? Third part, your learning objectives. What will the audience learn from your presentation? Fourth part, strategies, methods, models, examples. Provide information about the teaching or discussion strategies and methods that you will employ. Include models or examples if possible. This part is where you would describe whether or not you're going to have breakout groups or if you're going to be leading workshop places where people would take content and maybe work in small groups. What is your method of teaching? How are you going to convey this information? Are you going to give them worksheets to work through and then have them read out what they worked through on their worksheet? Those are what we're looking, that's the type of information we're looking for in that particular part of the abstract description. The next thing you'll need to decide is what is the presentation level? We offer beginner, intermediate, or advanced levels, and this should be considered based on the level of education the person who is attending your workshop needs to have before they attend your particular workshop, if accepted, or your particular poster. So if they have little to no knowledge, you can select, if they need little to no knowledge, you can select beginner. If this person needs to have been in the industry for a while and understand some complex concepts about your content, you would want to select that they need to be advanced. And just a few tips: start writing early, make sure you proofread, and have your colleagues review the abstract. Always starting early is a good idea. It gives you plenty of time to make sure you fully write out all of your ideas. Make sure that you're not rushing. Give yourself that time and space to properly write your abstract. It's not due until April 15th, so take the time. Proofread. Proofreading is important. You want to make sure that any kind of typing errors are taken out, and that's also why it's important to have your colleagues review it, because they might see something that you don't. I often get glary-eyed and miss my own typos and grammatical errors and things. So everyone, please take the time to write early, proofread, and have someone review what you wrote, okay? So next, on to part 2, how to submit an abstract. So everything here is going to be new for everyone. If you submitted an abstract before, great. And our old system, we phased out. We now have a new abstract submission. And let me go into here. See, I have an old website address here, so you have to forgive me. This should be the USCHA.life. Hence, I probably did not have anyone properly proofread my PowerPoint presentation, but this should be USCHA.life. And again, you will find an abstract tab there that will have the abstract information. So here's an example of that website. When you log into USCHA.life, you will click on the abstracts tab. You see we have the formats and tracks listed. You'll be able to scroll down and see all the important deadlines, some other guidelines and tips included there, and additional information about the scoring rubrics. We're going to cover a lot of that information today, so no worries. And then you can click on the Submit Now button, and it takes you right into our abstract submission site. So once you're in the abstract submission site, you'll have to start an account. You'll log in and use your best email address to create this profile. The reason why is because you'll have to log into this again, and you want to make sure that any information or updates we send you about your abstract come to an email address that you check regularly. So once you log in, you'll have to check our privacy notice. This is to make you aware that the information you're sharing is going to be not shared with anyone else outside of NMAC. You want to make sure that you type your name into the signature box, that you understand the privacy agreement, and go ahead and click submit and go into the rest of the form. You'll need to complete all fields with red asterisks and select an access key, which is the same as a password, and then click an account, create account, excuse me. The information here is what you'll be required to submit. These are the red asterisk pieces. So you'll have your first name, last name, email, cell phone, city, state, position, organization, and credentials. If you have none, you can select not applicable, then click update account. So I'm moving on into actually how you enter the content once you've created your account. And you'll be able to log back in multiple times to make the updates as necessary. So you might just create an account one day and go back in to enter in your abstract information. So here you'll see the green plus sign. Click here to begin a new abstract. So you want to enter your abstract title. You'll select the format, which we covered, the scientific or community version, and then you'll click submit. All this information is editable, so if you submit it and you want to change it, you are able to update that later. So then you'll go into the next page. Up at the top, you'll see the title that you just entered and the format that you just selected. In this example, you'll see that the format we selected was scientific. So here you go into 3 steps. You'll enter presenter information, your abstract authors, and the scientific abstract information. So first, you've entered in your title. Next, you have to enter in your presenter and co-presenter information. So a few guidelines as you go into this part of your abstract submission. We do not accept pharmaceutical abstracts. You can submit a maximum of 3. You can update to a maximum of 4 presenters. That means the people who will be on site at USCHA presenting. You can add up to 10 co-authors, and those are the people who helped you write the abstract or may have provided content for your abstract. You will have 3 tasks to complete in order to be able to completely submit your abstract for review. And each task needs to have a green check mark before you can save and then complete submission. Now, selecting complete submission is important if you want your abstract to be reviewed, right? Just clicking save will not have your abstract reviewed. You need to select complete submission. Okay, back to step 1, presenter information. So for each presenter you add, the following information is required, same as the person who is going to be the submitter. This is the same type of information that was requested when you created your account. However, you can add additional presenters, people you know who will be on site to present this information. If you don't know it at this time, it's okay. Click what you do know and then save your presenters. So you have that first green check mark. Now that you've entered in your presenter information, you can go into test 2 and add your co-authors. So this would be for all the people who helped you write this abstract. For an author, you're required to enter less information. We just need to know their first name, last name, email, a position that they hold, and the organization. Again, if you don't have additional co-authors, you just go into this task, click what you do know, what you don't know, and then just click add a new co-author so you can get your green check mark on this task. And then test 3 for your abstract information. The following information is required before you're able to get your green check mark for this task. You'll need to check your title because it'll already be there. You just need to make sure it's what you want. You'll have the option to edit it if you need to. Here's where you'll select your track. We covered that in part 1. Track descriptions are listed on our website under the Abstracts tab. 3, you'll enter in the presentation level that will be beginner, intermediate, or advanced. 4, you'll enter in your workshop description. Whether or not you selected scientific or community, both will require a workshop description. And then next, depending on which format type you selected, you'll put in the content that corresponds to that particular format. So if you selected scientific, this is where you'll enter your methods, results, and conclusions. Or for a community-focused format, you would enter your issues, learning objectives, and then your strategies, models, methods, and examples. Once you enter that information, you would click submit and get your green check mark. You've successfully gotten all your 3 green check marks. It would look just like this. You'll want to save your submission. You saved it, however, that does not mean your abstract is going to be reviewed. You've only saved it. Now that you saved it, you can click submit. And then you will get your confirmation email that says you have successfully submitted your abstract for submission. This is what it would look like. You want to make sure you get this to know that your abstract has been completely submitted for review. If your abstract status does not say complete, it will not be reviewed. You don't want to miss an opportunity. Many people don't make sure that their abstract is completely submitted in order to be reviewed. I will send you updates and let you know if there's some information that you started and may not have completed. I'll keep up with that and I'll send you updates saying, hi, I've noticed that you've put in some information. You might not have completed these parts. Please make sure you do that and completely submit your abstract by our submission deadline, which is April 15th. Okay, so look for my reminder emails, and also try to make sure you get that information in there, review, and submit by April 15th. All right, so you've submitted. What's next? Next, your abstract goes to the review committee. The track committee will review and score your abstracts, and they make these decisions to select the best curriculum for USCHA and make sure that they represent a variety of demographics and populations so that all the topics that are current and necessary for a complete HIV industry education are provided. You will receive decisions about your abstract no sooner than June 1st. So hopefully after June 1st, we'll have all the decisions ready and sent out to you. So just keep that in mind. We won't know anything until June 1st. So here's some criteria that your abstracts are reviewed upon. So the reviewer looks to see if you've included any interactive activities for the attendees. Are you just speaking to them, or are you giving something for them to work on and to think? Are you giving them worksheets to work through, or are you giving them group activities where they're able to, work together and collaborate? What type of activities are you giving them? Does it align with the selected track's goals or description? Again, like I mentioned before, track selection is extremely important. If the information doesn't align, you'll get less points on your abstract. How relevant is it to today's issues? Is it an innovative idea? Is it essential information? And how clear are your objectives and your narratives in your abstract? Are people going to understand what you're asking to present? Are people going to understand the information that you're giving? All right, so there we have it. If you still have questions, if there's something that's unclear, you can email your questions to conferences@nmac.org. Otherwise, we'll go into our chat and see if there are any questions there. So feel free to enter your questions into the chat now, and then we'll respond to those as necessary. Are there any questions in the chat box for us, Chip or Tara?
Nothing yet, Allison.
All right. So we'll give you a few minutes to kind of think things through, see if there's any questions that come through. But we're excited to see everyone at USCHA in Puerto Rico. So hopefully, if you are going to submit an abstract, even if it's selected or not, you'll still come to USCHA and see everybody. We know the pandemic has been very difficult and isolating, so we're all excited to kind of get out of the homes and get back into seeing people and, the hugs and camaraderie. We're excited for it all. So any questions, everyone? All right, so if you don't have any questions, I'll take that as a...
Oh,
we do?
Allison,
okay,
we do have one question. Yeah. What are the word limits for the application?
So each section, well, outside of the workshop description, which is 150 words, each section has a 500 word limit. All right, I know everyone's nervous, but we can absolutely take questions via email specific to any of your topics. If you have questions again about the track descriptions, if you're having questions about the submission site, you can always ask those questions via email. That's conferences@nmac.org. I'm Allison McKeithen, and I'm joined by my colleague, Tara Barnes-Darby.
Oh, Allison, we have another question. I'm sorry, person who's asking us, we need some clarification because they ask about sample abstracts. Do we have sample abstracts available for people to look at?
Yes, there is a sample abstract available online. And the sample abstract I provide so you can see what one looks like, not necessarily for you to model it after, because I think that a lot of you probably write equally well as well or better than the abstract that's been sampled. But the sample abstract just kind of gives you the clarity of objectives, how the person integrated great information about interactivity and did really well with explaining their topic. So it's just a model on those type of things. But I definitely would say, make sure you make your information your own. Just take the principal ideas from that abstract, is how clear you see things listed out, how they specifically mentioned the topics, they specifically mentioned the objectives, they clearly mentioned the interactivity. And that's listed, that is available on the USCHA.life website under the abstracts tab. When you scroll down, you will see the link to a sample abstract. And there's a lot of information on the website that was not covered here, as far as like additional tips and guidelines to make sure that you get the most points on your abstract review. So definitely check out the website and get that information. And I'm happy to clarify anything on the website if you have any questions about those as well. All right, again, we'll have our Spanish webinar tomorrow, our abstract webinar presented in Spanish, the same content presented by Bruni Velasquez and Jalen Otero. So if you're interested in that webinar, please send an email. We'll send you the link to that and you're able to register for it in Spanish, or if you want to send it along to your colleagues, you're welcome to do that. And if you're not able to make it tomorrow, this webinar, the Spanish webinar, will also be added to our website to watch later, so you can watch this information later. So please make sure you stay on our website, stay updated on the latest information by signing up for our newsletter as well. So with that, I'll say thank you everyone for joining us today. There'll be a survey at the conclusion of the webinar, so please complete the survey. Let us know what you think of how we did today. And as always, take care of yourselves, and we'll be here. Thank you so much for joining us today.